Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Supercars. Of course, this is the Saturday report of the VALO Adelaide 500, which happened last weekend. On Saturday, we saw Super 2 Race 1, and then Practice 3, the Top 10 Shootout, and then Race 33 for the Supercars Championship. But before we get into the Supercars action, let's discuss what happened in Super 2. So a lot happened in the Super 2 race. There wasn't actually a lot of racing, to be honest. It started off fairly cleanly. Everyone got a decent start. However, on the sixth lap at turn 6, Cameron Crick and Aaron Seaton came together after Cameron Crick had a look down the inside. Couldn't get it going and unfortunately spun Aaron around, and his rear collided pretty hard with the outside wall at turn 6. Kai Allen was pretty lucky to avoid all of that carnage, as he was in for the championship fight that weekend. Racing finally resumed on lap 12, only for a short time though, as multiple incidents happened all around the track. Jason Gomersall lost control heading into the final corner and spun Zane Morse around, but on the other side of town, whole heap of crap was happening. Cameron Crick was yet again involved in another incident. However, this time it wasn't his fault. At the same corner that he had his previous incident, he was spun around by Royal Harris, but literally a turn later, Matt Charter also was spun around, and there was heavy damage on Angelo Mazoris's car in consequence. I don't really know exactly what happened. It's hard to see with some of the pictures that were provided. I was at the track as well, so I couldn't really hear what was going on, but real unfortunate. There was heaps of damage on the Nissan Altima for Angelo there. But unfortunately, because of that, the race ended under safety car conditions. However, I guess that was a pretty ideal circumstance for Declan Fraser, who managed to win that race, who also was leading the championship at the time as well. Matt Payne to finish second, and then Cameron Hill in the other 888 car rounding up the top 3. Now moving on to practice 3 of the Supercars, it was a bit of a quiet one. Chaz Mostert managed to top the timesheets with a 118.8. Andre Heimgartner finished second, and then James Courtney rounded up the top 3. Of course, they more focused on shootout. Well, some drivers focused on their practice shootout laps at the end of the session. However, that was not the case for Thomas Randall, as he unfortunately found the wall at turn 8 and hit it pretty hard actually. And unfortunately, he missed out on the top 10 shootout by only a mere few seconds. All the boys and girls at Tickford worked their asses off, and got to give full credit to them for the amazing work they did, considering it was only like an hour or so time frame. But unfortunately, they unfortunately did not make the cut for the shootout, as he was the first driver out. However, they did provide more time for them to look over the car properly to get it ready for the race. In saying that, let's quickly run through the top 10 shootout. So Cam Waters was fastest with a 119.3. Then Scott Pye, the Adelaide boy, came second, so he started on the front row, which is awesome. And then Anton Di Pasquale rounding up the top 3 there. Quick shout out to James Golding as well, made it into the shootout once again with a 119.9. And fellow South Aussie Todd Hazelwood finished 8th with a 120.0. He had a fairly good lap. I think the last sector cost him a bit there. And David Reynolds, unfortunately, he was disqualified from the top 10 shootout after a rear wing setting was breaching the rules, I think. But he was starting 10th behind Thomas Randall. All right, now let's get straight into race 33. So it was a perfect day for Walkinshaw and Andretti. However, it was an absolute garbage day for Triple Eight. So race 33 had a lot of carnage in it, just like the Super 2 race from earlier. Everyone actually got off to a fairly clean start, and it did look like a fairly clean race to begin with. However, on lap 38, the first safety car was deployed as Jack LeBrock went hard into the wall at turn 11 and got stuck. But he was able to keep going and finish the race eventually. In consequence of the safety car, Triple Eight had to double stack Feeney behind Gizzy. Restart. On lap 41, the race was restarted for the first time. Gizzy and Mostert make contact, and unfortunately Gisbergen dropped down all the way down to 21st. It was declared as a racing incident, no dramas there. On lap 50, turn 11 found its next victim as Shane van Gisbergen this time got stuck in the wall. Decent bit of damage. The second safety car was deployed in consequence. And Cameron Waters and Scott Pye both pit at the same time. However, Waters was able to prevail. Once the race got underway, the third safety car was deployed on lap 53. After Cameron Waters spun Todd Hazelwood around, ending Todd's day, unfortunately, and as well as him, Will Brown had nowhere to go as there was just cars everywhere and made contact with Todd. Now, I think Todd said on his socials that that was actually $100,000 worth of damage that needed to be repaired, and the Matt Stone Racing crew stayed up till 3 a.m. rebuilding that car. So huge credit for them. That was a huge credit to them. It was an amazing. That was an amazing achievement. They all did very well getting that car, bringing that car back to life. But very unfortunate that it had to happen in the first place. As Hazelwood was actually doing pretty well. At the time, they were sitting in 8th or 7th comfortably, I believe. So, very disappointing day for them. And in consequence, Cameron Waters got a drive-through penalty, no surprise there. But once the restart got underway, it was quite ugly and messy. Heimgartner suffered from cramping, I believe, and started dropping down the order. Scott Pye and Bryce Forward make contact heading into turn 9. I believe Forward went down the inside of Pye and they made contact as they were doing so. Pye had to pit due to a power steering issue as a consequence. Forward, also similar to Waters, got a drive-through penalty for that. However, after surviving all of that carnage and having a decent fuel strategy and working very well with the safety cars, Chaz Mostert managed to bring it home in first place alongside his teammate Nick Percat. It was a dream result for Walkinshaw, as it's the last time they will be racing Holdens, as well as just GM product in general as they're moving to Mustangs next year. It was such a beautiful moment. You had to be there, basically. I had the privilege of being there on the Saturday, and it was just beautiful. Of course, this was just the Saturday, so we still had Sunday action to deal with as well, but I'm just so happy that they managed to get a 1-2 at their final round. It was brilliant. So in saying that, we'll have a quick run through the results today. So Chaz Mostert, like I said, is the winner for the Saturday at the VALO Adelaide 500, followed by his teammate Nick Percat, and James Courtney in the leading the way for Tickford, managed to bring it home in third. Of course, he is fairly decent at Adelaide with a few wins back in the Walkinshaw day. He actually said he was quite emotional watching Chaz and Nick bring it home for a 1-2 finish for Walkinshaw. Of course, James raced for the team for a number of years and had some success with them as well. It's such a beautiful, even if you're a Ford fan, you got to admit that was beautiful. Brody Kostecki comes home in fourth, leading the way for Erebus. Tim Slade leading the way for South Aussies, coming home in fifth there in the Cool Drive entry. Mark Winterbottom finishes in sixth after starting 21st, so good work by him. And then Will Davison comes home in seventh. 8th place is young gun Brock Feeney. After starting 17th, he drove well on the Saturday. Evaded all of that carnage that happened. Brought it home in 8th. So good work by him. 9th place, Andre Heimgartner. 10th was Lee Holdsworth in his second to last race as a full-time driver. 11th was David Reynolds after being disqualified from a shootout. Decent result for the Grove Racing crew. Macaulay Jones comes home in 12th. Cam Waters, after having the incident and serving the penalty, he came home in 13th. 14th was Anton Di Pasquale. 15th, Thomas Randall. 16th was Jake Gostecki. 17th, after serving that penalty after colliding with Scott Pye. Bryce Forward comes home in 17th. Jack LeBrock managed to get back out after having that crash at turn 11. He managed to come home in 18th. 19th was Chris Pither in his second to last race as a full-time driver, potentially in the series. And 20th was Shane Van Gisbergen after the shocking day that he had. 21st was Jack Smith, so they managed to get him back out after that suspension failure early on. And then finishing the grid was Will Brown after having that collision with Todd Hazelwood after Waters spun Todd around. And of course Scott Pye had to retire, unfortunately, due to the power steering issue. Todd Hazelwood retired due to the crash, and then James Golding had to retire, unfortunately, due to power steering issue as well. So very disappointing day for those guys. And for my driver of the day for the Saturday, even though he didn't get to finish the race, I am going to give it to Scott Pye. He has driven very well today. He did a cracking lap in the shootout, and it's great to see him up the front. It's where he belongs. He hasn't had much luck, unfortunately, and today's result shows that. He wasn't doing anything wrong. I really thought throughout the race before that incident happened, I really thought he actually had a chance to win. It would have been cool to see him win at his home race, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be, and didn't even get to finish, unfortunately. But he still gets my driver of the day, in my opinion, as despite everything, he drove very well. So good work by him. Glad to see him up the order. So that was all from the Saturday. Hope you enjoyed this. I do apologise that it was a bit late. I've just been very busy since the Adelaide 500, but I'm finally got it out now. But do stay tuned for the Sunday report soon to come as well. And let me know if you enjoyed this, and let me know what you think I could do to improve it. But so that's all from me. Bye for now.